You love falling down a good road.
Oh, absolutely.
But sometimes you just don't have 5 uninterrupted hours to spare to sift through every single piece of lore, every wild Reddit speculation, and every hidden textual clue buried in 1,000.
Yeah, who has the time?
Right. That is exactly why we are here today. For this deep dive, we are unpacking a massive, comprehensive compilation of theories from the YouTube channel Captured in Words.
Focusing on Patrick Rothfuss' Kingkiller Chronicle.
Exactly. It's an incredibly dense fantasy masterwork. And our mission today is straightforward, but we are going to distill the absolute most mind-bending, intricately connected theories from this literal mountain of...
So you get all of those amazing aha moments without feeling totally overwhelmed.
Yeah. Totally overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information. And since we know you already know the difference between a sympathetic binding and a sigildry rune, we are skipping the basics. We're going straight.
What's fascinating here is the sheer architectural genius of the world building we are about to look at.
Oh, yeah.
We aren't just discussing standard fantasy trivia today. What we are really unpacking is a masterclass in how myths evolve over time.
How history is written and subsequently rewritten by the victors.
Exactly. And how seemingly insignificant detail, a rusted piece of metal, a child's nursery rhyme, the color of a butterfly, how they create a devastating butterfly effect that spans millennia.
It's wild.
The text is designed to be read recursively. Every time you think you've found the bottom, the floor gives way to another basement.
Okay, well, let's unpack this. We have a ton of ground to cover. We're going to be exploring hidden, seamless doors, ancient secret societies operating in the shadows, hidden bloodlines.
The bloodlines recontextualize the entire narrative.
They really do. And ultimately, we're looking at the profound tragedy of our main character, Voss. So let's start right at the physical and metaphorical center of verse.
The heart of the university.
Yeah, specifically, the deepest level of the archive. You already know the layout. You're deep underground in the stacks, in that crypt-like silence, and you come across the four-plate door.
It's a strike.
It's a single, seamless piece of solid gray stone. No hinges, no handles, no sliding panels, just 4 flush copper plates, each with a keyhole, and the word Valeritas chiseled right in the center.
The word Valeritas is our first major anchor point in deciphering this space.
Right.
While it technically belongs to the fictional languages of Rothfuss's world, its linguistic roots in our real world are entirely transparent.
It's Latin, basically.
Heavily inspired by the Latin word veritas, which translates directly to truth. You see this word constantly in the mottos of real-world educational institutions,
Like Harvard.
Harvard University being the most obvious example. If you have a completely impenetrable, seamless door sitting in the middle of the greatest repository of knowledge in the known world, and it has a word meaning truth carved into it.
The implication is staggering.
It really is.
Yeah.
It suggests that whatever's locked behind that door is the ultimate, unfiltered truth of this universe. Not the sanitized histories Master Lauren allows in the stacks above, but the raw, dangerous reality.
But a truth so dangerous, it has to be locked behind solid stone. And here's where we need to look at the material. Why copper?
That is the key question.
If we look at the magic system, specifically naming, copper is the ultimate outlier.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, copper holds a highly specific, almost anti-magical property. It is heavily established throughout the lore that namers...
The people who can control elements by speaking true names.
Yes, namers have absolutely no power over copper. It acts as an absolute dampener.
Like in the Rookery.
Exactly. Think about the Rookery, the asylum where they keep students whose minds have cracked from delving too deep into naming. When Eloden is locked in there, his cell is woven with a heavy copper mesh hidden inside the walls.
And his door is reinforced with copper.
So the presence of these 4 copper plates on the 4-plate door isn't decorative or symbolic. It is purely functional.
It's a cage.
It implies that the door is holding something or someone incredibly powerful inside. Something that must not be allowed to use naming magic to simply speak the name of stone and walk out.
You just want to know what's in there. And the theories from Captured in Words suggest a few compelling possibilities. The most mundane, though still fascinating, is that it holds the pruned history.
The censor books.
Right. Master Lauren actively hides information about the Amyr and the Chandrian. We know he employs gillers like Viari.
Viari's great. He acts like a swashbuckling Indiana Jones of library.
Traveling the world, collecting rare books. The true, unaltered histories could be back there. Or perhaps it's a repository of bookkeeping.
That ancient, extreme form of magic that caused the creation.
Yeah, and it's heavily rumored that Kavath eventually gets expelled from the university because he figures out how to open this door and steal something he shouldn't.
While a vault of forbidden knowledge is logically sound, the deeper textual clues point to something far more physical and far more dangerous.
Okay, lay it on.
We need to examine Phella's dream. Phella dreams that Valeritas isn't just a word for truth. She dreams it is the name as an old, dead king, and that his tomb is behind the four-plate door.
A lot of people dismiss that.
Right. You might dismiss that as just a dream, but Rothfuss doesn't waste ink on idle dreams. This aligns perfectly with the architectural descriptions of the archives themselves.
Barrow comparisons.
Exactly. The structure is constantly compared to a barrow, which is an ancient burial. The deepest part of the archives is officially called the tomes, but the students nicknamed it the tomb.
A tomb holding a dead king, or a prison holding something that isn't quite dead, which leads to the biggest, most terrifying theory for the four-plate door.
That it is the prison of Ajax.
Or Jax, depending on which cultural myth you're reading. Ajax was the greatest shaper and the guy who sparked the creation war because he literally stole them.
Pulling it between the mortal realm and the Fae.
Right. And the lore explicitly states that to end the war, this great enemy was shut beyond the...
This raises an important question regarding geography, history, and the very concept of doors of stone. Is the four-plate door the only door of stone? Because the text introduces us to another candidate. There is a quote from the alchemist Cthaeh, who casually mentions another mysterious door.
Oh, the Lackless door.
He tells Cthaeh that on the oldest, most ancient part of the Lackless family lands, there is a secret door without a handle or hinges. It is locked, but at the same time, lockless, and nobody knows what is on the other side.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. What if the four-plate door at the university and the Lackless door are the exact same door?
Geographically, that sounds impossible.
I know, since the Lackless lands are in Ventus, hundreds of miles away. But what if the university is built directly on top of the ancient, original Lackless land? Let's look at the hidden history of the Creation War.
Great cities.
There were several great cities, but only one survived the war unfallen, the city of Balin. Now, look at the official mailing address of the university today. It's Balin Baron.
Balin Baron?
Say that out loud, quickly. Balin Baron. It sounds almost exactly like Balin Barrow. The university is built right on top of the burial mound of the last surviving ancient city.
It's a brilliant piece of deductive reasoning based on linguistic drift. Over thousands of years, Balin Barrow softens into Balin Baron. If the university was built upon the ruins of Balin, and the deepest part of those ruins, what Ari calls the underthing, forms the foundation, then the four-plate door sits at the very nexus of those ancient ruins.
Cleverly disguised in the heart of the modern archive.
And if you are hiding the most dangerous being in history, Ajax, beneath a university full of inquisitive arcanists, you would absolutely want to guard.
You would. Which brings us to Puppet. Puppet is this incredibly strange, seemingly erratic character who lives in a reading hole deep in the archives, directly one floor beneath the four-plate door.
Surrounded by candles.
Right. Now, think about Master Lauren. Lauren is pathologically strict about open flames in the library. He bans Kavath for bringing a candle in. Yet Puppet is allowed to live down there, completely surrounded by lit candles. Why the double standard?
He's the watch.
The theory is that a puppet is the watchman. He is a canary in a coal mine. In this universe, the presence of the Chandrian causes normal fire to instantly turn blue.
An alarm system.
Exactly. If Puppet's candle suddenly burn blue, he knows the Chandrian have arrived at the door, and he can immediately alert the master.
It perfectly illustrates how no detail in this text is merely atmospheric. A quirky character living in the basement isn't just color. He is a biological alarm system for a prison holding a mythological being.
So cool to think about.
But to understand why the Chandrian would be interested in this door in the first place, we have to look closely at their motivations and their history.
Which brings us to the Chandrian, also known as the Seventh, the beings that murdered Kavoth's troop and set this entire tragedy.
Their signs are terrifying.
Blue fire, rotting wood, rusted metal, unnatural coal. And their primary directive, it seems, is to completely erase all knowledge of their own. They systematically wipe out anyone who knows their true names or sings the wrong sort of song.
Let's focus on the leadership. At the head of the Chandrian is Haliax. The Haliax was not always a monster. He was once Lanre, a legendary hero from the Creation War.
The stories about him are epic.
The epic stories tell us Lanre fought relentlessly to protect the Empire, but when he died in battle, his wife, a remarkably powerful magic user named Lyra, brought him back from the dead through sheer will and naming magic.
But then things go wrong.
Horribly wrong. When Lyra subsequently died under mysterious circumstances, Lanre was inconsolable. He went mad with grief. He sought power where he shouldn't have, specifically by seeking out a creature known as the Cthaeh.
Oh man, the Cthaeh.
From the Cthaeh, he gained a terrible power and immortality, but at a horrifying cost. He can never sleep, he can never forget his pain or his madness, and his face is forever shrouded in absolute shadow. He became Haliax.
And serving as his terrifying right hand is Cinder, or Firula. This is the one Krufa has the most visceral, personal hatred for.
For good reason.
Cinder is exceptionally cruel. White hair, pale porcelain skin, and eyes that are deeply, uniformly black, like a shark's. He's the one who mocked a traumatized, bleeding child Cthaeh after his parents were slaughtered.
A truly chilling antagonist.
But wait, you mentioned Lanre spoke to the Cthaeh. We really need to dissect the Cthaeh because honestly, this might be the single most terrifying concept in the entire...
The Cthaeh is indeed the true nightmare of this universe. It is a creature bound to a massive, sprawling tree within the Fey realm. Its power is not physical strength or destructive magic, but absolute omniscience.
Perfect sight.
Exactly. The Cthaeh can see all possible futures perfectly, branching out infinitely from any given moment. But what makes it truly malevolent, what makes it the ultimate antagonist, is that it uses this perfect sight to choose the exact sequence of words necessary to send the person it speaks to down the absolute worst possible path.
It's pure evil.
It acts with pure malice, aiming to cause maximum tragedy, suffering, and chaos across the world.
And the most messed up part, the Cthaeh never lies. It cannot lie. It just completely weaponizes the truth. It tells you exactly what you need to hear, exactly when you need to hear it, to destroy yourself and everything you love.
Best explains this perfectly.
He says it spoke to Ayak right before he stole the moon, directly causing the creation. It spoke to Lanre right before he betrayed the Empire, leading to the destruction of the great city. And horrifyingly, during the events of the second book, Bikva.
The scene where Cthaeh wanders off the path in the Fey realm and stumbles upon the Cthaeh is a masterclass in tension.
You're just screaming at the page for him to run away.
While the Cthaeh is talking to Cthaeh, casually poisoning his mind with half-truths about the Chandrian and Denna's physical abuse, it is simultaneously engaged in a seemingly idle activity. It is snapping the wings off beautiful butterfly land on its tree.
Those butterflies aren't just creepy imagery. They are a massive, flashing neon clue. The very first butterfly that Cthaeh viciously snapped air is described red
and gold.
In the political landscape of Ventus, red and gold are the royal house colors of the Calantis family, ruling monarch. The Cthaeh is literally showing the audience exactly what Cthaeh. We know the series is called the Kingkiller Chronicle, and we know Cthaeh eventually kills it, which plunges the present-day world into a mass bloody war.
The ultimate spoiler.
That red and gold butterfly is the Cthaeh explicitly foreshadowing, and through its words, perhaps guaranteeing that Cthaeh will assassinate.
It is the ultimate literal manifestation of the butterfly. The Cthaeh flaps its metaphorical wings by whispering a few targeted sentences to a vulnerable teenage boy, and a few years later, an entire kingdom falls.
Flying blowout.
But this raises an incredibly important question regarding the Cthaeh's underlying identity. Who or what is actually bound to that tree? The theories we compiled offer three deeply compelling arguments.
Okay, let's hear them. Who is the voice in the tree?
The first theory, and perhaps the most complex, suggests that Cthaeh is actually Celitos.
Celitos, the founder of the Amyr.
Yes, the legendary magic used. In the ancient stories Scarpi tell, when Lanre betrayed Celitos and destroyed the city of Myrtyrinial, Celitos gouged out his own eye with a shard of mountain glass to gain a greater sight, using blood magic to curse Lanre into becoming Haliax.
Okay.
Now trace the physical object. The Lackless family has an ancient heirloom, the lockless wooden box that smells faintly of lemon and spice. The wood of the cassis tree in the Fey realm is described as smelling exactly the same, lemon and spice.
Oh, wow.
The theory proposes that the Lackless box contains the bloody shard of mountain glass Celitos used, and that ancient blood magic is what permanently binds Celitos to the tree in the Fae. Over thousands of years of isolation, his desire for vengeance warped him into the bitter, omniscient, malevolent Cthaeh.
Wait, hold on. If Celitos is the Cthaeh, how does the timeline track? Bast explicitly says the Cthaeh spoke to Ajax before the creation war started. But Celitos didn't form the Amyr or supposedly get bound to a tree until the very end of the war, after Lanre's betrayal. Are we saying Celitos was the Cthaeh before he was Celitos?
That is precisely the friction point of this theory. To make it work, you have to lean heavily into the nonlinear temporal fluidity of the Fey realm, where time does not flow synchronously with the mortal world.
Fey time is weird, true.
Or, alternatively, it suggests that Scarpi's story is vastly distorted, and Celitos' binding happened much earlier, or that Celitos was manipulating events long before Myrtyrinial fell. It's a timeline headache, which leads many to prefer the second theory.
Which is?
That the Cthaeh is a demon from the dominant Tellan religion's mythology, specifically Encanus.
Encanus.
The lore says Encanus was a demon of destruction who was bound to a massive iron wheel by Tellan. When he was struck, the text says the sound was like quenching iron.
The hissing sound.
When Cthaeh approaches the Cthaeh's tree, before he even sees the creature, he hears a distinct hissing noise, which Rothfuss describes exactly as the sound of quenching iron. This implies the entire Tellan mythology of the iron wheel is actually a distorted, culturally appropriated historical memory of a real, ancient demon being permanently bound to the tree in the Fae.
Okay, that feels much cleaner linguistically. And the third theory?
The third is more ecological to the magic system, that the Cthaeh is a master skin dancer. A skin dancer is a parasitic fey creature that can inhabit and control bodies.
Terrifying things.
The theory suggests that this ancient apex skin dancer possessed Ajax, then jumped into Lanre, causing their respective madness, and was eventually permanently trapped within the tree itself by ancient Amyr. Now, unable to physically jump to a new host, it spreads its venom through conversation, infecting minds rather than bodies.
So what does this all mean for the big picture? Because if the Cthaeh is the ultimate evil, manipulating history from a tree, and Ajax is the ultimate physical threat locked behind the four-plate door, it makes you wonder about the Chandrians.
It does.
We've always assumed they are the ultimate villain, but what if they aren't? What if they are actually the good guys? Or at least tragic anti-heroes?
That is a massive paradigm shift. Walk me through the logic.
Think about what the Chandrian act. They are desperately running around destroying any information, any songs, any written records of their true names or their history. We, through Kvath's perspective, assumed they were just covering their tracks for their murders to avoid the authorities.
That's the surface level reading, yes.
But what if they are destroying information to prevent anyone from learning how to free Ajax from the four-plate door? What if they are trying to stop anyone from finding the Cthaeh and getting infected by its omniscience? Denna actually writes a song, the Song of Seven Sorrows, that completely contradicts Kvath's understanding of him.
Her song praises Lanre.
Yes. Her song paints Lanre Haliax not as a monster, but as a tragically misunderstood hero who was betrayed and who carries a terrible burden to save the world. What if the Chandrians are trying to prevent a second war and their brutal murders of anyone who digs too deep are just a horrifying utilitarian necessity to them?
It forces you to completely reconsider the fundamental morality of the narrative. Are they villains or are they a containment protocol?
Right.
And if the Chandrians are one side of this ancient cosmic coin, who was on the other? When Haliax is dressing down Cinder in the first book after they kill Kvoth's troop, he specifically lists three groups that keep them in check, three groups they actively fear: the Amyr, the Autumn, and the Scythe.
The big three.
Let's unpack the Amyr first, because if we were talking about utilitarianism, they wrote...
Literally, so the Amyr, founded by Salidos. Their entire motto, their whole driving philosophy is Ivar Enim Yuja, for the greater good. Historically, they were granted incredible, terrifying power by the Tellan Church and the Uttran Empire.
Total impunity.
They were completely above the law. A ranking Amyr could judge anyone, confiscate anything, and kill anyone without trial, so long as they could justify that their actions served the greater good.
You really have to ask yourself, if you were in the Amyr's shoes, would you make those calls? We all want to think we're the hero, but the math of the greater good gets dark really fast.
It gets so dark.
Our sources highlight a chilling historical example from the text, the Duke of Gibeah. This man was secretly a high-ranking Amyr. He slaughtered 20,000 innocent people, men, women, and children.
Horrific.
But he didn't do it just for sport or sadism. He did it for medical research. From his brutal systemic vivisections, he wrote 23 comprehensive volumes on human anatomy that advanced medical science by centuries.
Kvath even uses his books at the university.
Kvath admits that modern medicine relies entirely on Gibeah's work, meaning those 20,000 deaths likely saved millions of lives over the subsequent century. The Amyr knew what he was doing, and they allowed it, because the knowledge served the greater good. Does the end justify the means when the means are a literal holocaust?
It's sickening, but you can see the twisted, cold logic of it. When Kvath realizes the beautiful anatomical drawings in the Gibeah medical texts were drawn from living, tortured subjects, it's this horrible moment of realization. But here's the twist with the Amyr. When Kvath is in the Fae, Felurian tells him point blank that there were never any Amyr.
She laughs at the very idea.
She literally laughs. She says the human Amyr of the Atron Empire were just children playing dress-up in their parents. The true, original Amyr were a race of ancient proto-humans called the Ruach, beings who existed before humanity or the Fae had even fully diverged.
Which brings us to the second group Haliax fear, the Atom. The Atom are a highly insular society of elite mercenaries living in the barren mountain. They seem removed from the world's magic, but their history connects directly to the ancient Ruach.
The swords, look at their sword.
The Atom possess ancient blades that have been passed down continuously for millennia. When Kvath trains with them, he receives a sword named Caesura. When they recite the sword's lineage, the list of every person who has ever wielded it, it takes hours.
The history goes back forever.
The math proves the sword is well over 2,000 years old, predating the creation war itself. Only the ancient Shapers or the Ruach could have forged weapons that never dull or break over millennia. Furthermore, the Atom mercenaries universally wear blood-red leather.
Red clothes.
This is a striking visual echo of the highest-ranking ancient Amyr, known as the Cthaeh, who were famously recognized by the bloody tattoos running up their hands and arms to the elbow, symbolizing that they had blood on their hands but were above all mortal judge.
The imagery is perfectly aligned, so the Adem might literally be the cultural and perhaps biological descendants of the original non-human Amyr. And what about the Cthaeh? They are the third group Haliac.
They are equally terrifying in their own way.
We only hear about them briefly, but their purpose is singular and terrifying. The Cthaeh are a faction of elite Fey warriors whose sole purpose is to guard They ride on white horses and use great white horn bows to execute anyone who even comes within speaking distance, all to prevent the Cthaeh's omniscient poison from spreading into the world.
Zero tolerance.
If a bird lands on the tree, they shoot the bird. If a person speaks to the tree, they shoot the person and then they burn the body.
And if we look for patterns across the world building, we see fascinating overlap. The leaders of the Adam schools, the absolute masters of their martial arts, all wear pure white. And one of their founding legendary figures, Cthaeh, was renowned specifically as a master of the horn bow.
White clothes, horn bows, it matches.
The linguistic, martial, and visual parallels strongly suggest that the Amyr, the Adam, and the Cthaeh might all share a common ancient origin, perhaps all branching out from the original Ruach who survived the creation war and took on different duties to protect the world. The Cthaeh guard the ultimate evil, the Adam preserve the ancient martial disciplines, and the Amyr operate in the shadows of the mortal world.
It makes you look at every institution in the present day totally differently. Like, are the masters at the university secretly the modern, covert version of the Amyr?
Sure.
Think about Master Lorne's behavior again. He actively censors the greatest library in the world.
Curating knowledge.
He curates exactly what humanity is allowed to know about the Chandrian and the ancient past, perfectly aligning with an Amyr cover-up for the greater good. And even wilder is Kavoth himself slowly becoming an Amyr without even realizing.
The textual evidence for Kavoth operating as a rogue Amyr is substantial, and Rothfuss isn't subtle about the imagery. Characters actively refer to him in these terms. Ari, the mysterious girl in the Underthing, directly calls him her Cthaeh.
She sees right through him.
And symbolically, the text constantly emphasizes Kavoth having blood on his hands. When he is injured, his hands are bloody. When he kills the fake Edema Ru troop, his hands are coated in blood. He is visually marked just like Cthaeh.
Oh, totally. And it's not just the imagery, it's his entire psychology. He acts purely on his own internal moral code. He judges people, he executes people, and he justifies it all to himself because he thinks he's uniquely qualified to decide what's right. He is acting out the terrifying extreme of for the greater good.
He really is.
But to really understand why Kavoth thinks he is the center of the universe and why he possesses this terrifying innate power, we have to look at his biology. We need to shift focus to his background because there is a massive hidden in plain sight secret about his lineage that changes the entire context.
We must discuss the secret of Kavoth's mother, Lorien.
Okay, if you've been on the forums, you know this, but it is the most elegant piece of foreshadowing in the books. We know Kavoth's mother ran away from a very wealthy, noble family to join the Edema Ru traveling performance. She gave up a life of luxury for a life on the road with Arlen.
But which noble family?
Well, Kavoth's father, Arledin, was a master bard, and he wrote a cheeky little poem about his wife that got him in trouble with her. Let me read the exact stanza. He sings, "For all her faults, I do confess it's worth my life to make my wife not tally a lot less."
On the surface, it seems like a simple, somewhat clumsy, playful rhyme about a husband dealing with his wife's quirk. But if you analyze the meter and read that last line aloud, blending the syllables naturally.
Not tally a lot less. Say it faster. Natalia Lack. It's a phonetic trap hiding in plain sight. Kavoth's mother, Lorien, is actually Natalia Lackless, the runaway heir to one of the most powerful, influential, and ancient families in the world.
The irony of this revelation is profound, especially in the second book. Kavoth spends significant time trying to win the favor of Meluan Lack, a powerful noblewoman in Vin.
Who turns out...
Exactly. Meluan utterly despises the Edema Ru with a racist passion because she believes they kidnapped and corrupted her older sister, Natalia. She hates Kavoth simply because he is Ru, not realizing she is staring right at her own nephew, the actual biological heir to the Lackless family fortune and like.
And being a Lackless isn't just about political power or money. It's about ancient magic because of the Lackless rhymes. These are old, seemingly nonsensical nursery rhymes that hold the key to opening that lack we talked about earlier. There are two versions of the rhyme, a boy's version and a girl, but they basically list 7 things needed to open the door. Let's break down the first, a ring unworn.
We think this refers to the ancient circles of greystone scattered around the world, which act as portals to the Fae. You don't wear them, you walk through them.
Second, a sharp word not for swearing.
In the context of a universe governed by naming magic, a word not for swearing almost certainly refers to a true name. A name so dangerous it is forbidden to be spoken aloud, the true name of Iax perhaps, or the true name of the door itself.
Third, a candle without light. Go back to the pottery Cthaeh finds at the Mothan Farm massacre. Haliax is explicitly depicted standing next to a black candle that casts shadows instead of light. Haliax himself might be the
Fourth, and most crucial for our protagonist, a son who brings the blood. For most of the first 2 books, this line feels abstract, but once we establish that Cthaeh is of direct, likeless blood, the runaway heir, he perfectly fulfills this requirement.
He's the key.
He isn't just a bystander, he is the biological key required to open the ancient doors.
And fifth, her husband's rock. Now get your mind out of the gutter. This isn't a dirty joke. This traces right back to the lackless box, that seamless wooden puzzle. We discussed the theory that it contains the bloody shards of mountain glass, the rocks that Celidos used to gouge out his own eye. If Celidos is somehow fundamentally tied to the lackless lineage, or if his artifacts were entrusted to them, this fits perfectly.
But we can extrapolate this lineage theory even further into far more dangerous territory. If Cthaeh is the son who brings the blood, is he merely a descendant of the lackless line? Let's revisit the ancient shaper Iax.
The boy who stole the moon.
In Hespe's story about the boy who stole the moon, Iax is specifically described as a luckless boy. The words luckless and lackless are etymologically linked in this universe. They are the same words separated by thousands of years of linguistic drift. Iax is the founder of the lackless family.
Okay, so Cthaeh is a distant descendant of Iax. That makes sense, but it gets so much crazy. The lore describes Iax as having dark and what is the one defining physical characteristic of Cthaeh besides the red hair?
His eye.
What happens to Cthaeh when he gets intensely angry or uses powerful naming magic? His bright green eyes literally shift to a dark pine, almost completely black color. He shares the exact specific physical traits of the ancient enemy. And remember, the 7th thing in the lackless rhyme, the thing the lackless woman keeps underneath her black dress.
A secret kept under a dress. The textual implication points heavily toward a secret hidden pregnancy.
Yeah. What if Cthaeh's mother, Natalia, didn't just run away with a traveling bard? What if, in her dream, or by wandering through the Greystone portals, she traveled to the Fae realm beyond the doors of stone and actually conceived Cthaeh with Iax?
It sounds insane, but Arledin even jokes at one point about Lorien bedding down with a wandering god because Cthaeh is so naturally gifted it's unnatural.
What if Cthaeh isn't just a descendant? What if he is the literal biological son of the greatest threat the world has ever?
It would elegantly explain almost every anomaly about his character. His unparalleled innate naming abilities that terrify the masters, his wildly fluctuating eye color, his absolute lack of a filter, and his tragic, almost gravitational pull toward disaster.
A child of chaos.
He is quite literally a child of chaos, born of the being who broke the world. This lineage theory fundamentally shifts Cthaeh from being a random, talented orphan seeking revenge to being the central pillar of an ancient cosmic prophecy.
It's just mind-blowing. The layers here are insane. Okay, let's pivot and look at the mystery identities of some key supporting characters, because nobody in this story is exactly who they seem to be. Let's talk about Master Ash.
Denna's patron.
This is the intensely secretive patron of Denna, the woman Cthaeh loves.
Huh.
We know almost nothing about him except that he's older, has white hair, is incredibly wealthy, and he physically abuses Denna. He beats her with his walking stick, leaving brutal welts but carefully avoiding scars so she remains beautiful. Now, Cthaeh actually accidentally named him Master Ash when a gust of wind blew an ash tree leaf right into his mouth while he was trying to guess the guy's.
We know from Illidan that Cthaeh's naming ability is often subconscious. His sleeping mind knows things his waking mind does. Before settling on Ash, Cthaeh throws out several random guesses for the patron's true name: Faru, Ferali, Forda. If you combine the syllables of his guesses, they form Ferula.
Which is the true name of Cinder, the cruelest of the Chandrian, the guy with the white hair and black eye. Is Denna's patron secretly Cinder in disguise? It makes total sense. Cinder is using Denna to write that song praising Haliax to change public.
That is certainly the most popular theory, given Cinder's white hair, cruel nature, and Cthaeh's subconscious naming. However, there is a very strong alternative theory that points to an aristocrat Cthaeh meets in Ventus named Breton.
Oh, the beautiful.
Breton wears ash-gray clothing exclusive. He carries a distinctive walking stick with a wolf's head. He is an expert at a complex strategy game called Talk, and there are persistent court rumors that he conducts secret, wild, pagan rituals in the wood, which perfectly aligns with Denna meeting her patron in remote, wooded areas.
Right, Brandon plays a beautiful game, constantly manipulating is on the board just for the elegance of the trap, which perfectly mirrors how Ash manipulates Denna. But I want to push back on both of those first. What if Master Ash, whether he is Breton or Cinder or someone else entirely, isn't a villain in the traditional sense? What if he is an Amyr?
Following the greater good logic.
Think about it. We just spent 20 minutes talking about how the Amyr operate purely for the greater, no matter how brutal the method. What if Master Ash isn't just abusing Denna? What if he is brutally, ruthlessly training her in hand-to-hand combat and ancient Yillish not magic, preparing her to fight the Chandrian or open it? The welts from the walking to be the harsh, unforgiving results of Marshbach.
It recontextualizes the abuse entirely. To be clear, it doesn't excuse it morally, but it aligns perfectly with the Amyr's utilitarian philosophy. Pain is just a tool to forge a weapon. And then we have another deeply mysterious female figure, Ari. She is the broken, seemingly feral girl who lives in the forgotten tunnels beneath the university, surviving on scraps.
Ari is the sweetest, most delicate character, but her background is... Yet there's a throwaway moment in the frame story when Cthaeh is talking to the chronicler, and he casually brags about his legendary ex. He says he has stolen princesses back in Burrow. Well, who is the princess? Readers are Princess Ariel. She has incredibly delicate, ingrained royal mannerisms. She eats with formal etiquette even when she's eating half an apple in a sewer. The name Cthaeh gave her, Ari, literally translates to gold in one of the world's languages, implying a royal work.
The most compelling evidence regarding Ari isn't her behavior, but the behavior of others toward her. When Master Eladin, the eccentric and highly irreverent naming professor, finally meets Ari, he doesn't treat her like a crazy homeless girl.
He bows to her.
He treats her with an immense, formal, bowing respect that he shows absolutely no one else in the entire series. Not the Chancellor, not the local nobility. Eladin knows who she is. This detail signifies that Ari's true status as Princess Ariel in hiding is recognized by those with the deepest knowledge of the world.
And speaking of beings with deep knowledge and hidden statuses walking among us, we have to discuss the Tinkers. I love the Tinkers. They are these nomadic merchants who wander the world with overloaded pack mules. But they aren't just selling pots and pans. They miraculously offer people exactly what they are going to need in there.
Like the rope.
Like early in the story, a tinker tries to sell Cthaeh a random coil of rope and some fruit wine. Cthaeh, being a know-it-all, arrogantly turns the rope down, thinking he doesn't need it. But literally the next day, he finds himself hunting a giant, fire-breathing dragon, and a rope is exactly what he desperately survive.
The mechanics of the Tinkers are hinted at by Felurian. While describing the various types of Fae, she mentions certain beings who walk among humans, hiding their true nature through Fae magic called glamoury, appearing simply as pack mules laden. The implication is that Tinkers are not human merchants. They are actually Fae bees in disguise.
Yes, and if the Cthaeh uses its perfect foresight to cause maximum tragedy, the Tinkers seem to use their Fae foresight to act as the absolute anti-Cthaeh. They try to gently nudge humans toward the best possible outcomes by offering them the exact physical items they will need to survive upcoming trial. That's why there is a universal ironclad cultural rule across every country in this world. It is terrible luck to insult a tinker, because if you reject their help, you are rejecting the universe trying to save your life.
You've probably noticed this on your third or fourth reread, but consider Cthaeh's fatal flaw in relation to the Tinker. He knows the folklore. He knows Tinkers inexplicably offer what is needed, yet his hubris, his absolute certainty in his own intelligence, leads him to reject their help time and time again. How often do you ignore good advice or overlook a simple solution offered by someone else simply because you are convinced you already know the answer better than they do? Cthaeh's arrogance completely blinds him to the subtle grace being offered.
How often do you ignore good advice just because you're convinced you already know the answer? That is perfectly stated, and it brings us right to the biggest criticism some casual readers have of this series, and it's something we need to aggressively, thoroughly debunk: the folly and the myth that Cthaeh is a Mary Sue.
A Mary Sue, or Gary Stu in this case, being a literary term for a character who is unrealistically perfect, flawlessly competent, universally loved by the narrative, and lacks any meaningful flaws that negatively impact the trajectory of the story.
Exactly. You see reviews saying, oh, Cthaeh is so annoying. He's a virtuoso at the lute. He learns sympathy magic faster than anyone in history. He's incredibly charming. He learns martial arts in a few months. He's a total wish fulfillment character. No. Absolutely not. If you look at the textual evidence, Cthaeh is what we call, in tabletop RPG terms, a min-maxer. He put all of his character creation points into incredibly high intelligence and high charisma, and he left his wisdom stat at absolute 0. He is a genius, but he's fundamentally stupid.
His hyper-competence in academic, magical, or musical pursuits is entirely balanced and often overshadowed by his catastrophic lack of judgment, his blistering temper, and his complete lack of impulse control. Rothfuss goes to great lengths to show us us the horrific consequences of Kvoth's act.
Let's look at the actual receipts, because Kvoth does some incredibly dark. When he was a traumatized homeless kid in Tarbian, another street kid named Pike broke his father's loot. That's sad, yes. But what did Kvoth do? He didn't just punch him. He plotted. He lured Pike into a secluded alley, doused the kid in highly flammable, high-proof alcohol, set him on fire, and walked away. He set a child on fire.
It's brutal.
Later, when he finds a fake troop of Adimaru who have kidnapped and abused 2 girls, he doesn't just disarm them or turn them into the local baron, he poisons their stew. He sits there and watches them slowly become paralyzed and terrified, and then he butchers the entire camp in cold blood with a sword. He massacres them. And at the university, his petty, escalating, ego-driven feud with Ambrose causes a disaster so massive that the Iron Law, the brutal religious police, are called down upon the school, threatening the safety of everyone.
He is not a perfect, flawless hero. He is a classic Greek tragic hero. His defining trait is hubris. He engineered his own legendary myth by spreading lies and exaggerating his exploits in tavern to build a terrifying reputation to protect himself. But that very hubris is what ultimately breaks the world. We know the world in the present day, the frame story, is suffering from a massive, devastating civil war and an invasion of demonic Grail creatures. And Kvoth, sitting in his inn, explicitly admits it is entirely his fault.
Right, which brings us to the frame story itself. The present day. Kvoth is hiding out as a humble, depressed innkeeper named... Now, what does the word Cthaeh translate? We learned this when he sealed merchant. It translates to disaster. He literally named himself Disaster.
Let us examine the Waystone Inn itself, because the building is as much a character as anyone else. The author, Patrick Rothfuss, recently read the prologue to the unpublished 3rd book, The Doors of Stone, and it gave us incredible architectural details about the inn. We learned there's a fully equipped forge hidden in the base, complete with spilled acid and brass thread. Kvoth is actively trying, and apparently failing, to open his own thrice-locked chest, which presumably holds his true name, his magical power, or his loot. Furthermore, we learn the inn is physically built upon massive, ancient gray stone foundation, and perhaps most tellingly, linking back to our very first topic today, the locks and the doors of the inn are made of solid copper.
Let's unpack those copper. We established an hour ago that copper completely dampens naming magic, so why does a powerful magic user have copper locks on his own inn? Is he trying to keep hostile namers out?
Or, the more terrifying, is he trying to keep a namer? There are 2 primary schools of thought regarding the true purpose. The first is that the inn elaborate high Kvoth is intentionally luring the Chandrian himself to the playing a long, beautiful game. He's waiting for the perfect to somehow open his chest full power, bring the trap, sacrificing himself to destroy the enemies of the world once and for all.
I want to believe that's badass. What if Kvoth spoke? No. What if he built copper lock, fight? That's why
It is a profound, suffocating tragedy. And we cannot discuss the isolation in the inn without mentioning his sole companion, Bast. Bast is a fey creature, desperate to manipulate events, bringing Chronicler to the inn, hiring mercenaries to attack Kvoth to wake up his old master, his Reshi, and bring him back. But who is Bast? He is introduced formally as Bastus, son of Remen, Prince of Twilight.
And we know Felurian is the Lady of Twilight. So the theory goes that Felurian is Bast's mother. But who is the father? Our sources suggest an amazing, deeply resonant theory. Taborlin the Gun. Taborlin is the ultimate legendary wizard of this, the guy who knows the names of all things. And in the legends, Taborlin famously wears a cloak of no particular color. Now, what does Bast wrap himself in when he's sad or frightened? A patchwork blanket with a little heart sewn on, childhood keepsake from his legendary absent father.
It perfectly highlights how seamlessly the ancient mythology and the present-day reality of this narrative bleed in. The legends aren't just story, they are the parents of the present.
We have covered a massive amount of ground. To summarize, last hour, unparalleled dense. Everything is connected by a random black metal pad, color of a crushed butt, all arrogant thought fabric of reality.
And as we conclude our deep dive into these archives, I want to leave you with one final deeply provocative thought to mull over. We know Kvoth's story is a true tragedy. We know from the frame story that he is destined to open the doors of stone and plunge the world into a catastrophic war. But what if his ultimate failure isn't that he gets defeated by the Chandrian? What if his ultimate failure is that he actually succeeds in his revenge? What if, in finally destroying Haliax and the Chandrian, he destroys the very beings who are secretly guarding the doors of stone? The only beings keeping Ajax and the Cthaeh locked away. Sometimes the absolute worst thing you can do is exactly what you set out.
Oh man, you succeed, you get exactly what you wanted, and in doing so, you destroy. What a devastating thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It has been a wild, dense ride through the Underthing and the Fae. Keep exploring the text, stay curious, and above all else, never ever insult a tinker.